It was just another Friday evening when Jack Thompson walked into the small bar down the street. A Navy SEAL veteran with more than a decade of service, Jack had learned to take life one day at a time. After retiring, he settled into the quiet life of a civilian, trying to avoid anything that might stir up the chaos he had once thrived in. The bar was his regular hangout spot. It was quiet, the perfect place to unwind after a long day of work, and he had built a rapport with the staff over the past few months. They didn't ask too many questions, and he liked it that way. The bar owner, Mark Henderson, was a no-nonsense guy who ran the place with a firm but friendly hand. He'd been in the business for years, making it a point to know the regulars and keep things smooth. Jack had never had an issue with him before. But on this particular night, something was different. Jack was halfway through his second beer when Mark walked over to him, a frown etched on his face. "Jack, you need to leave," Mark said, his voice curt. Jack looked up, surprised. "What? Why?" Mark glanced around the bar nervously, as if ensuring no one was listening. "We don't serve your kind here," he muttered. Jack blinked. "My kind? I'm just here for a drink, Mark." The owner's expression hardened. "You've been drinking too much, causing a scene, and, frankly, I don't want any trouble. I'm asking you to leave." Jack's pulse quickened. He wasn't sure what had sparked the sudden hostility, but he wasn't about to let it slide. "I haven't caused any trouble. I've been coming here for months without issue. What's going on?" Mark hesitated, his gaze flickering to the other patrons in the bar. "I don't want to have this conversation. Jack, just leave. Now." Jack stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the wooden floor. "This is ridiculous," he muttered under his breath as he turned and walked out, the door swinging shut behind him. As he stepped into the chilly evening air, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He'd never had trouble with Mark before, and he certainly didn't think he'd been causing any disruptions. But that night, the sudden coldness from the owner stung more than he cared to admit. He wondered if it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe Mark had a bad day. Maybe Jack had drunk too much. But that night, as Jack lay in bed, the events kept swirling in his mind. The anger built inside him, fueled by the unfairness of it all. He knew he couldn't let it go. He might be a retired Navy SEAL, but he wasn't one to back down from a challenge, especially when it involved standing up for what was right. The next morning, Jack made a decision. He wasn't going to let Mark's actions go unchallenged. He made a few calls, not to complain, but to gather some backup. If Mark thought he could treat a veteran this way, he was about to learn a very valuable lesson. Jack had served with some of the best men and women in the country, and his SEAL brothers were more than just friends. They were family. They had each other's backs no matter what. He quickly put the plan into motion. By midday, Jack had rounded up a few of his former teammates. They didn't need much convincing. They were as pissed off as he was. Each man had their own reason for agreeing to stand by Jack's side, but it all boiled down to respect for each other for what they had gone through together and for their fellow service members. When the evening rolled around, Jack and his team suited up, ready to make their presence known. They were all in civilian clothes now, but the aura of their military training couldn't be mistaken. As they approached the bar, Jack felt a wave of anticipation. This wasn't about violence or confrontation. It was about making a statement. They walked in as a unit, 5 Navy SEALs in perfect formation, each one exuding quiet authority. The door swung open, and the bar's patrons froze. Conversations halted. Mark Henderson was behind the bar, wiping a glass with a rag, his back turned when the SEALs entered. He turned around, and his face fell when he saw who was standing in the doorway. Jack, standing at the front, nodded at him. "Hey, Mark, I think we need to talk." Mark's face paled. "What is this, Jack?" "This is what happens when you mess with the wrong guy," Jack said calmly, but his words carried weight. The rest of the bar was dead silent. Mark didn't know what to say. He had kicked out the wrong person, someone who was more than capable of calling in backup. He had no idea that Jack wasn't just any civilian, he was a Navy SEAL. And so were the men standing beside him. "I didn't mean anything by it, Jack," Mark stammered, suddenly realizing the gravity of the situation. Jack took a deep breath and smiled. "You didn't mean anything by it? You kicked me out for no reason. You humiliated me in front of the people I've shared drinks with for months. You don't do that to a veteran, Mark. Mark opened his mouth to say something, but stopped short when Jack's team stepped forward, each one imposing in their own way. The bar was still eerily quiet, save for the faint sound of a jukebox playing in the background. The mood had shifted dramatically. What had once been a casual hangout spot was now a tense arena of stares and uncomfortable silence. Jack's voice remained steady. I'm not here to start a fight. I'm here because I think you owe me an apology. You owe all of us one. Mark swallowed hard, and for the first time he looked at the 5 men standing before him, men who had served their country, who had sacrificed so much. He saw the seriousness in their eyes, the unwavering strength in their posture. I'm sorry, Jack, Mark said quietly, his head lowering in regret. I don't know what came over me. Jack nodded, satisfied that the apology was genuine. Good, but it's not just me you owe an apology to. It's every person who has served, every veteran who's walked through your doors. You disrespect one of us, you disrespect all of us. With that, Jack turned and walked out, his team following in perfect formation. The message had been delivered. They didn't need to say anything more. The next morning, word spread quickly. The bar was a local spot and people talked. The story of the Navy SEALs walking into the bar had made its rounds. Mark Henderson found himself apologizing to every veteran who came in, and the bar became a place of reflection for him. He had learned a hard lesson about respect, and he vowed never to forget it. As for Jack and his team, they had made their point. They didn't need to rely on their military titles to gain respect. They commanded it through their actions, through their integrity. They didn't ask for recognition or praise. They simply stood up for what was right. In the end, Jack knew that it wasn't about the bar. It wasn't about the fight. It was about showing that the bond they shared as veterans, the bond forged through years of service and sacrifice, was stronger than anything Mark could throw at them. And in the quiet aftermath, Jack felt a sense of peace knowing that he had done what was right, not just for himself, but for every person who had ever worn the uniform.